House Lannister in Game of Thrones Season 8 is in for a bit of a shakeup, as in I don't think there will be any members of House Lannister left when it comes to the end of Game of Thrones Season 8. In this video, I'm going to go over every confirmed spoiler for House Lannister, including Jaime, Cersei, and Tyrion. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we get started, real quickly, please slap a like on this video, as the like goal is going to be 420. Also, make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video. And also, make sure you're subscribed. It's my job to keep you all entertained throughout this long night. I just want to take this time to give a super special thank you and shout out to George R. Martin, Dan and Dave, and every single actor who has ever taken a part on this series. They won the best drama series for the 2018 Emmys last night, and it is well deserved. Lena Headey sort of got robbed, but there's always next year. Okay, so the first Lannister we're going to talk about today is Jaime. Jaime has had some of the least known spoilers for the season. Now, the first thing I want to discuss is some of the more recent spoilers for his character, and those involve a report from Watchers on the Wall from an article that was written by The Hollywood Reporter, wherein basically in this article, The Hollywood Reporter points out how Nikolaj Coster-Waldau is basically suing his management company, and these documents that were released during this trial prove that Nikolaj Coster-Waldau will only be paid for 4 episodes of Game of Thrones Season 8. Well, that was quickly debunked, and what it actually meant was that he's getting paid for all 6 episodes, but he may only appear in 4. Now, as soon as we hear that news, my mind immediately jumps to, well, similar to other actors like Kit Harington and the actor who plays Joffrey, they all hung around a little bit longer than they were actually killed off because, you know, there were their dead bodies in scenes. And obviously Jon Snow came back, but if Jaime Lannister does die, let's say the 4th episode, right in the middle of the battle for the long nights, as many of these spoilers had led out to, then that would mean that Jaime will be dead by the very end. Now, there was a rumor / speculation that some of these major characters' deaths that we're going to be seeing in Game of Thrones Season 8 may not be permanent, and they may be resurrected by some of the followers of the Lord of Light. My whole thing with that is I don't think Jaime Lannister is one of those, because he's not a follower of R'hllor. It's never been mentioned to him that he's been chosen by the gods and has a greater purpose. It's been mentioned by his father that, you know, he needs to become the better man he was always meant to be. And I think, according to Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, that's the reason why his actor's been on sort of this redemption arc for the past several seasons, is because of Tywin's words to him about becoming the person he was meant to be. But aside from that, he's never been specifically told by a follower of R'hllor that he's a chosen one. So I think the only characters who will be revived next season if they die are Jon Snow and Daenerys, and pretty much any member from their camp. In that same interview that I was just talking about, the actor who plays Jaime mentions that, you know, some of his main motivation for walking out on Cersei last season was because the things that he did for love. You remember, right before he pushed Bran out the window, this is what he says. These are the things that he does for love. So now he's at the point where, you know, he mentioned that that scene in Season 7 was one of the most intense scenes because no one really knows if Cersei was going to have him killed or not. He's still pseudo on that mission, and according to him, he's headed north in Game of Thrones Season 8. Now, we all sort of knew that, but I think what he didn't mention was that he's going to take a sidestep and pick up a lot of these Lannister soldiers that are ultimately loyal to him, because remember, he was named Warden of the West. So I think if these soldiers have any sort of common sense, they would follow Jaime. But also, you know, they might have to deal with Cersei's wrath, so I don't know if they would do that. I do think that Jaime is headed north and that he will pick up an army on his way. Real quick, one last thing before we move on. During that same interview, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau was asked who his favorite actor was to work on set. Now, this may surprise you. He said his favorite actor to work with, and this is a quote directly taken from him, is he says, "I really liked working with Liam Cunningham, who plays Davos Seaworth. We worked together, and now we get along very well. I will not go into depth because I would be giving away spoilers." Now, we do know that Davos and Sir Jaime have really never had any screen time together, so it definitely confirms that Jaime most likely will be headed up north early on. I see him arriving to Winterfell by episode 2. I also see Jon and Daenerys arriving to Winterfell by, if not the very end of episode 1, the very beginning of episode 2. They're not going to spend too much time on their journey through the north. If we had more episodes in this last season, then of course they would. I would have loved to get in a full 10 episode season, or maybe even a 7-episode season, where we can see Jon and Daenerys going around the north and we get to see different aspects. Maybe we get to see a different part of the north we've never seen before. The main point of that is I think Nikolaj was giving away more, information than he actually meant to. We do know that Davos' main role as of right now is to sort of be the hand of the king to Jon Snow. He's not exactly hand-on in the battles. I think what he may, one of the reasons why he got to spend so much time with Davos is that Davos is a sort of commander. You remember in the Battle of the Bastards, he stayed back on the field and sort of watched and then led that last charge to go in and help Jon Snow. So who's to say Jaime Lannister doesn't do that same thing with the Lannister soldiers? This gives him and Davos a few scenes together, and maybe if the crap goes down and the shit hits the fan, so to speak, maybe the two of them escape together, and this is where we get their bonding. Now, next up we have Cersei. I know you all are probably dying for me to talk about Tyrion, but don't worry, I'm saving him for the end. So these Cersei spoilers were a little bit more prevalent when it comes to Lena Headey and her filming schedule for season 8. Now, the first thing that I want to really discuss about Cersei is the fact that Rebecca Van Cleve, who is, the body double for Lena Headey. A lot of people think this was actually Lena Headey's nude body walking through the streets until you look at her face, because that is the worst CGI job this show has ever done. But anyway, the actress who is her body double will be returning for season 8. Now, in my mind, this means that there's going to be obviously another nude scene with Cersei. Why would you need her body double? Now, there could be a number of things. One thing that it's not for sure is that last season her body double was used when she was giving head to Jaime. I don't think that's going to be happening this season. She may be taking Jaime's head. So there is really only one option for why Rebecca Van Cleve could be used for a nude scene to portray Cersei. My opinion, that's a pregnancy scene. I think there will be a scene in which Cersei either actually gives birth or she's being examined by Qyburn, and this is when he tells her that she's had a miscarriage. It's been a rumor now for about a year and some change that Cersei is not going to actually carry this baby all the way and have a Lannister baby in Game of Thrones season 8. That's just not happening. Her character is greatly misinterpreted, misunderstood, and a bit of a bitch. She's an evil cunt. I'm not gonna lie to you. Lena Headey's portrayal of Cersei Lannister is amazing. This is why we hate her character so much, because Lena Headey does such an amazing job. But her arc doesn't necessarily fit in with having a child and having some sort of happiness in the end. Because she's been so bitter throughout her entire arc on this show, she doesn't necessarily, that's not a fitting in. So I definitely think that this nude scene with Rebecca Van Cleve coming in to film for season 8 is going to be a miscarriage scene with Cersei Lannister, and Qyburn is most likely going to be involved. And we've also got, on June 9th, 2018, the Red Keep, or the King's Landing set is now completely white, and in my opinion, this insinuates at some point Cersei is overthrown and the Red Keep will be rebuilt. Now, as you can see in this image right here, this is not just like a casual white that they may be doing some sort of special effects and post-production with the show. Not only is it a fresh coat of white paint, but this also looks like it's brand new and this has been rebuilt. And remember, this is supposedly supposed to be the Red Keep on the King's Landing set. So then we also have another thing that happened on June 27th, and then we had pictures from the King's Landing set, and this is just kind of interesting to me. I think it may insinuate that there could be some Cronogmen helping Jon lay siege to King's Landing. Now, supposedly this is a giant wooden structure with holes, and it's covered by skins and furs. Now, I think the wildlings make something like this, but it just wouldn't make much sense for the wildlings really to make it this far in the story. So, my season 8 fanboy jumped in and was like, oh, that's Howland Reed, that's the Cronogman, that's straight from Greywater Watch. But I don't know, you guys let me know what you think this is and why it's being used at the filming for King's Landing. That's the thing, it's for sure being used in the King's Landing set in season 8. We just don't know what it's for, and we've never really seen anything like it in King's Landing. And then finally on June 23rd, we actually had some major news hit, which is, according to Los Siete Reinos, they are reporting that there is a massive scene with over 600 extras being filmed at the set for King's Landing. This, in my opinion, confirms that it's going to be a siege, and we also have tons of pics of the Unsullied and the Dothraki storming the gates of King's Landing. Now, tons of images of King's Landing getting ransacked, and a bunch of other burning of stuff, like, we have this giant dome being burned, and then there's also supposedly a scene with several individuals banging on the gates of King's Landing to let them in right before the city explodes. So we definitely know that Cersei is going to be removed from power. One thing that we don't know is if she actually makes it towards the end of the season. If I had to guess, I would say that she probably does, and then is likely killed by dragon fire. Alright, now and lastly, we have Tyrion Lannister, and I know my excitement just dropped tenfold. I'm not really going to be confirming the Peter Dinklage filming spoilers. What I'm going to do instead is go over all of the confirmed leaks from a fellow YouTuber named Freaky Doctor. Now, he has provided us with some very detrimental and correct spoilers in the past, and then he sort of took a break and now he's come back. So these spoilers are to be taken with a grain of salt, like most of them, because they cannot be 100% without a doubt confirmed until season 8 airs, but most likely we're going to see something like this happen. And I have briefly mentioned these spoilers before in other videos, so go and check out the links down below in the description if you want to watch those. So apparently towards the end of the season, next season, Tyrion Lannister is going to betray Daenerys. Now, Tyrion's trial was the only scene that was filmed in Sevilla, and there were no action scenes, green screens, or CGI that was present on set. The only characters that were filming there were Tyrion, Davos, Sansa, Arya, Bran, Sam, Brienne, Robin, Grey Worm, Unsullied Guards, and 2 new characters, one of which has been confirmed. The one in golden armor has been confirmed to be Toby Osmond, and another one with a beard who is speculated to be in his late 50s, and a lot of us think he may actually be Howland Reed. Now, I know you're probably like, what? Robin Aaron? You mean Sweet Robin? What is he doing? I know, it sounds crazy, but there's a lot that we're missing for season 8, and this is most likely why it seems like that. So the reveal of Tyrion's treason will be a long scene, and it's going to take place with 5 different characters. Those characters include Jon, Arya, Sansa, Daenerys, and Tyrion. His trial will end up being at the Dragon Pit, and Tyrion will end up being executed for treason. We're not very clear on which way this happens, and we're told that Kit Harington didn't film in Sevilla, and neither did Emilia Clarke. But the only thing that means is that the 2 of them were either on a mission up north, perhaps, or they are there and they're just going to be added in later on in post-production, because maybe the scenes that, maybe Jon Snow's got his giant ice sword and he's getting ready to behead Tyrion, so that's why they wanted to film his scenes entirely in a green screen, and maybe Peter Dinklage could have gone and filmed at that same place with him. And then also, I honestly think the main reason why Emilia Clarke's not there, it could be 2 things, but the main reason is probably because she's on the back of her dragon, and that clearly has to be added in post-production. The second option, and this may not be as likely, is that Tyrion's death is just too traumatic for her to watch, and she doesn't want to see one of her closest and most loyal companions get executed, so she decided to step down from the trial. Now, like I said, these spoilers are to be taken with a grain of salt, because nothing is 100% confirmed until it airs on your screens during the first half of 2019. As far as my personal thoughts on this, I see this being gut-wrenching. I don't want to believe it, but like I said, that's mainly because there's such wild, this is such a wild scenario happening. We don't know much about, what leads up to this in season 8. All that we know is what's been foreshadowed in season 7 and the seasons prior to this. And yes, they do have a bit of contextual evidence for Tyrion betraying Daenerys, but not really. It's going to be heartbreaking, to say the least. So in my next video, I'm going to cover House Stark and all of the spoilers and confirmed filming leaks. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. You guys don't realize how much I appreciate that little simple thing. Please slap a like on this, as the like goal will be 420. Make sure you're subscribed, and then make sure you have your notifications turned on all the way, so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Also, super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. Super special shout out to every single person watching right now. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Reviews. Just in case you were wondering, I did survive the hurricane. We just got a bunch of wind and a bunch of rain.